What would you do if the two people you trusted most in the world were secretly plotting to destroy your life while smiling in your face every single day? Well, I found out the hard way, and let me tell you, revenge has never tasted sweeter. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from all around the world. My name is Sarah, and 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. At 42, I was living what most people would call the American dream. A beautiful 2-story home in the suburbs, a successful marketing career that I'd built from the ground up, and my 8-year-old daughter Emma, who was the absolute light of my life. My husband Jake seemed like the perfect partner, charming, ambitious, and climbing the corporate ladder as a senior project manager at a tech company. But you know what they say about things that seem too perfect, they usually are. It started with the little things. Jake's phone suddenly had a passcode that he'd never bothered with before. Those late-night, work calls that required him to step outside. The way he'd jump when I entered the room unexpectedly, quickly closing his laptop or shoving papers into drawers. His cologne lingered differently on his shirts, mixed with a floral perfume I'd never owned. For 3 months, I felt like I was slowly going insane. Every time I brought up my concerns, Jake would flash that $1 million smile and explain it away. Babe, you're being paranoid. The promotion is just really stressful right now. You know how demanding my boss can be. He'd pull me close, kiss my forehead, and I'd feel guilty for doubting him. The worst part? My best friend since college, Rebecca, was always there to reassure me. Sarah, you're overthinking this, she'd say during our weekly coffee dates. Jake adores you. Some men just get weird about work stress. Trust me, I see it all the time in my law practice. Rebecca had always been the voice of reason in my life, the brilliant attorney who'd helped me through every major decision for the past 15 years. Looking back now, I realize how perfectly orchestrated it all was. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday evening in October. I was making Emma's favorite pasta when my phone rang from an unknown number. Usually, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Is this Sarah Martinez? The voice was young, shaky, nervous. Yes, who's asking? My name is Melissa. I think I need to tell you something about your husband. My blood turned to ice. What about my husband? He's been seeing me for the past 4 months. He told me he was separated, that you two were just waiting for the divorce to be finalized. But yesterday, I saw you together at Emma's school play, and you looked like a happy family. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. What are you talking about? Melissa's voice broke. Mrs. Martinez, I'm so sorry. I never would have, if I'd known he was lying. But there's more. He's been asking me to help him with something. Something about getting money from you. A lot of money. $50,000. My legs gave out. I sank into the kitchen chair, staring at Emma coloring at the table, completely oblivious to her world crashing down around her. He said if you didn't cooperate, I should threaten to expose our relationship. Make it look like he forced himself on me. He gave me photos, coaching on what to say. But I can't do it. I won't destroy an innocent family. After Melissa hung up, I sat in that kitchen for 2 hours, not moving, barely breathing. Emma eventually climbed into my lap, worried about why Mommy looked so sad. I held her tight and promised myself that no matter what happened next, I would protect her from this betrayal. That night, when Jake came home with his usual excuses about traffic and difficult clients, I watched him like I was seeing a stranger. This man who'd held me while I cried over my father's death. Who'd stayed up all night when Emma had pneumonia. Who'd promised to love me forever in front of our families and friends. He was a complete fraud. But here's the thing about betrayal, it can either destroy you or forge you into something stronger. I chose steal. Instead of confronting him immediately, I decided to play the long game. If Jake and whoever was helping him wanted to manipulate me, I'd let them think they were succeeding while I built my case brick by brick. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Melissa's apartment. She was exactly what I'd expected, young, vulnerable, clearly manipulated by someone much more experienced. As we talked, she revealed details that made my skin crawl. Jake hadn't just lied about being separated, he'd painted me as an abusive, controlling wife who kept all the family finances locked away from him. He said you'd hidden money from him for years, Melissa explained, tears streaming down her face. That he deserved half of everything, but you'd made it impossible for him to access. He convinced me that scaring you into paying was just getting back what was rightfully his. I studied her carefully. Melissa was telling the truth, but there were gaps in her story. Jake might be a cheater and a liar, but financial manipulation wasn't his style. He was too lazy, too dependent on others to think through something this elaborate. Someone else was pulling the strings. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. I hired a private investigator. Marcus Santos came highly recommended by a colleague whose own divorce had gotten messy. A former police detective with silver hair and sharp eyes, he listened to my story without judgment and got straight to business. Mrs. Martinez, I need you to act completely normal while I do my work. Don't change your routine, don't let your husband suspect anything. Can you do that? For the next 2 weeks, I became an actress in my own life. I smiled at Jake over breakfast. I texted him sweet messages during the day. I even initiated intimacy, though it made my skin crawl. Meanwhile, Marcus was documenting every move my husband made. The photos Marcus showed me were like knives to the heart, but also exactly what I needed. Jake leaving a downtown hotel with a woman who wasn't Melissa. Jake having intimate dinners at expensive restaurants. Jake entering an apartment building I didn't recognize. The woman in the photos, laughing and holding hands with my husband, kissing him passionately in the parking garage of her law firm, was Rebecca. My best friend. The woman who'd been my maid of honor. Who'd held Emma the day she was born. Who'd spent every holiday at our table for over a decade. I stared at those photos until my vision blurred with tears. 15 years of friendship, reduced to evidence of betrayal in a manila folder. That night, I made copies of everything and stored them in a safety deposit box. Then I called Marcus with new instructions. I want to know everything. Every detail of their relationship, their communications, their plans. I want evidence so airtight that they'll have no choice but to confess. What are you planning, Mrs. Martinez? I looked at Emma sleeping peacefully in her bed, trusting that her world was safe and stable. I'm planning to protect my daughter and make sure the truth comes out. Whatever it takes. The next phase of my investigation revealed the full scope of their scheme. Rebecca had been feeding Jake legal advice on how to manipulate our finances and set up the extortion plot with Melissa. She'd researched my assets, identified my vulnerabilities, and crafted a plan to pressure me into liquidating my investments and retirement accounts. But they'd made one crucial mistake: they underestimated me. Over the following weeks, I played my part perfectly. I acted concerned when Jake brought up our financial troubles. I seemed frustrated when he suggested we might need to borrow money. I even had a few carefully orchestrated conversations with Rebecca, expressing worry about our marriage and asking for her legal advice. Sarah, if things are really as bad as you say, maybe you need to consider protecting your assets, Rebecca suggested during one of our coffee meetings. I could help you set up some safeguards, make sure Emma's future is secure regardless of what happens with Jake. The audacity was breathtaking. She was literally offering to help me protect myself from the scheme she'd masterminded. Meanwhile, I was building my own legal team. I hired Catherine Wells, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city, ironically, someone Rebecca had always complained about losing cases to. I also consulted with a criminal attorney, because what Jake and Rebecca were planning wasn't just adultery and betrayal. It was conspiracy, extortion, and fraud. The trap I set for them was elegant in its simplicity. I told Jake I'd decided to liquidate some investments to help with our financial situation. I asked Rebecca to draft the paperwork, claiming I trusted her more than any other lawyer. Both of them jumped at the opportunity, clearly thinking their plan was working perfectly. But every document they prepared, every conversation we had, every step they took was being recorded and documented by my legal team. The night before I was supposed to sign the papers that would have transferred nearly $200,000 of my money to accounts they could access, I finally made my move. I invited both Jake and Rebecca to dinner at our house. Emma was at my mother's for the weekend, so it was just the three of us. Jake was practically glowing with anticipation. Rebecca kept checking her watch, probably calculating how soon they could finalize their scheme. "I have something to share with both of you," I announced as we sat down to the meal I'd prepared. "I've been doing some thinking about trust, loyalty, and what it means to really know someone." I placed a manila envelope on the table between them. Jake reached for it first, his smile faltering as he saw the first photograph. His face went completely white. Rebecca tried to snatch the envelope away, but I'd already spread the rest of the evidence across the table. Surveillance photos of them together. Financial documents showing the accounts they'd set up. Recordings of their phone conversations that Marcus had legally obtained. Copies of text messages between them discussing their Sarah problem and how to squeeze more money out of her. What is this?" Jake stammered, but we all knew exactly what it was. Rebecca, ever the lawyer, went on the attack immediately. "Sarah, you're clearly having some kind of breakdown. This is harassment. These photos could be doctored, and recording private conversations is legal in this state when there's evidence of criminal activity," I interrupted calmly. "Which there is. Conspiracy to commit extortion, fraud, adultery, and about 6 other charges, my attorney is excited to pursue." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in our living room. Jake crumbled first, as I knew he would. "Sarah, please, let me explain. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Rebecca said it was just to help me get access to money that was rightfully mine anyway. She said you'd been controlling our finances for too long." "Shut up." Rebecca snapped at him. "Don't say another word." But Jake was spiraling, desperate to save himself. "She made me do it. Rebecca said if I didn't cooperate, she'd make sure I lost everything in the divorce anyway. She convinced me that you'd been hiding money, that I deserved better. She said the Melissa plan would just scare you into being more fair." I looked at Rebecca, this woman I'd trusted with my deepest secrets, who'd been plotting against me for months. "How long?" I asked simply. She stared at me with undisguised hatred. "How long what? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? How long have you been planning to rob me? How long have you been sitting at my dinner table, playing with my daughter, pretending to be my friend while destroying my life?" Rebecca's mask finally slipped completely. "You want the truth, Sarah? Fine. Jake and I have been together for 8 months. And you know what? He's never been happier. You've been suffocating him for years with your need to control everything, your boring routines, your complete lack of passion." She stood up, pacing now, her anger finally unleashed. "You think you're so perfect, so smart, so superior. But look at yourself. When was the last time you made an effort? When was the last time you surprised him or made him feel desired? I gave him what you couldn't, excitement, adventure, a partner instead of a warden." I let her rant, let her reveal her true nature completely. The woman I'd considered a sister was a stranger, filled with resentment and jealousy I'd never suspected. "As for the money," she continued, "Jake deserves half of everything you've built together. Maybe more, considering how you've treated him. We just decided to skip the lengthy legal process and get what's fair. When she finally stopped talking, I nodded slowly. Thank you for being so honest, Rebecca. It'll make the criminal prosecution much easier. That's when the panic set in. Both of them suddenly realized that this wasn't just about a divorce or a broken friendship. They were looking at serious jail time. Sarah, you don't understand, Jake pleaded. We can work this out. Think about Emma. Think about our family. Don't destroy everything over a mistake. I gathered up the evidence, looking at these two people who'd betrayed me so completely. You destroyed our family the moment you decided to lie to me. You destroyed our friendship the moment you chose greed over loyalty. I'm not destroying anything, I'm just making sure the truth comes out. The next morning, I filed for divorce and pressed criminal charges. Within 48 hours, both Jake and Rebecca were arrested. The local news picked up the story, prominent attorney and married man arrested in extortion scheme, and suddenly my private nightmare became public knowledge. But you know what? I felt nothing but relief. The legal process took 6 months, but the outcome was everything I'd hoped for. Jake was sentenced to 3 years in prison for conspiracy and fraud. Rebecca lost her law license and got 2 years, though she'll likely serve less with good behavior. Melissa, who'd been manipulated and threatened into cooperation, received community service and agreed to testify against them. The divorce was finalized with me retaining full custody of Emma and nearly all our assets. Jake's parents, mortified by their son's behavior, actually apologized to me and promised to maintain a relationship with Emma once he was released. But the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the conversation I had with Emma about why Daddy wouldn't be living with us anymore. Mommy, did Daddy do something really bad? She asked one evening as we sat on our back porch, watching fireflies dance in the garden. I chose my words carefully. Yes, sweetheart. Daddy made some very poor choices that hurt our family. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes so big that there have to be consequences. Are you sad? I considered the question honestly. I'm sad that he chose to lie instead of talking to me about his problems. I'm sad that he hurt us. But I'm not sad that the truth came out, because now we can move forward and build something better. Emma nodded with the wisdom that children sometimes possess. Like when I broke your favorite vase and tried to hide it, but then I felt better when I finally told you the truth. Exactly like that, baby. The truth might hurt sometimes, but it's always better than living with lies. Today, Emma and I live in a beautiful townhouse closer to my office and her school. I got promoted to senior marketing director, partly because I no longer had the stress and distraction of a dishonest marriage weighing me down. Emma is thriving, her grades have improved, she's made new friends, and she seems lighter somehow, as if she can sense that our home is now a place of honesty and peace. I've started dating again, cautiously, but with a much clearer understanding of what I want and what I won't tolerate. Trust isn't something I give lightly anymore, but I've learned that being careful isn't the same as being closed off. Rebecca tried to contact me once, about a month after her release. She sent a long letter apologizing and asking for forgiveness, claiming she'd been going through her own personal crisis and had made terrible decisions. I read it once and threw it away. Some betrayals are too deep for apologies to bridge. Jake writes to Emma occasionally, and I always let her decide whether she wants to read his letters or respond. She's been to visit him twice, and I think it's important for her to maintain some relationship with her father, despite everything. But she's also old enough now to understand that actions have consequences, and that adults who break trust have to work very hard to earn it back. The most surprising outcome of this whole ordeal has been the relationships I've built with other women who've gone through similar experiences. There's an entire network of us now, women who refuse to be victims, who fought back against betrayal and won. We support each other, share resources, and remind one another that we're stronger than we ever imagined. If I could go back and change what happened, would I? Absolutely. I would change Jake's decision to cheat and lie. I would change Rebecca's choice to betray our friendship. I would spare Emma the pain of watching her family fall apart. But I wouldn't change how I handled it. I wouldn't change the strength I found, the truth I uncovered, or the life I've built from the ashes of their deception. Because here's what I learned: betrayal can break you, but only if you let it. You can choose to be a victim of someone else's lies, or you can choose to be the hero of your own story. You can let their deception define you, or you can use it as fuel to build something better. I chose to fight. I chose truth over comfort, justice over peace, and my daughter's future over preserving a lie. It wasn't easy, but it was right. And 3 years later, as I watch Emma laugh with her friends at her birthday party, as I celebrate another promotion at work, as I build genuine relationships based on honesty and respect, I know I made the right choice. The two people I trusted most in the world tried to destroy me. Instead, they freed me from a life built on lies and taught me what real strength looks like. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. What would you have done in my situation? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one and love hearing your thoughts. Also, don't forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you, and subscribe for more real-life stories of triumph over betrayal. If you have your own story of overcoming deception or betrayal that you'd like to share on our channel, send us an email. We believe in the power of truth and the strength that comes from supporting each other through life's biggest challenges. Remember, you're stronger than you know, and you deserve relationships built on honesty, respect, and genuine love. Never settle for less. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.